So now I would like to show you how to reuse a user input in the conversation. So we're gonna make the conversation just a little bit more personal by asking the user for their name and then responding with that name that the user has given us. And for that, I'm just gonna create a new page to start with. I'm gonna call it name. And the next thing we'll do is we will link that page to be at the beginning of the conversation. So I'm going to go here into the start page and I'm going to say transition to the name page right away, so that this is the first thing that the user will encounter. And then in the entry fulfillment, we're going to have the first user input. I'm going to say, hi, what's your name? Hit save. And because I just broke the conversation flow, so to say, I'm going to add my route here. And first thing, I'm going to say redirect to the page coffee. So in effect, I just added a new page here in between the start and the coffee. And I just remembered one more thing that I forgot. We have this default welcome intent here with these default answers, and we don't need those anymore because the first thing that we'll say to the user is now here in the name page. Okay, so now what we need is a new intent. So we ask the user, what's your name? Next thing we'll do is create that new intent. I'm going to call it get name. And then what would the user respond to? Hi, what's your name? They could either just enter the name. They could say, hi, my name is, and then say the full name if they want to be really elaborate, or they could also just say it's Peter. And now we need to create a parameter so that we can recognize this name and store it. So for this, Dialogflow CX used to have a name system parameter, but this is not available yet, at least in Dialogflow CX. So as a crutch, we're going to use the system any for now, which basically can take any sort of input. And then we can see that this new parameter popped up here at the bottom, and we can give it a name. Since it's the name of it will be name. And I'm also going to check this redact and log option because the name is personal information and we don't want it to show up in the logs later once the app goes to production. So now I will need to mark the name parameter in the other training phrases as well. And that's about it for this intent. So we could already go ahead and test, but I want to do one more thing, which is adding the response. So how do we now reference this name that the user has hopefully just entered? We can go and say, we use this dollar sign, and then we can reference the so-called intent scope, and then reference the parameters that we have in this intent, and then reference the name. And now if I hit save and I test the bot, it should already work. Hi, what's your name? Peter. So then we have, hi Peter, would you like some coffee? So now just recap what happens where. So the start page doesn't do anything except redirect to the name page right away. The name page has an entry fulfillment which asks for the name. Then we set up this route with the get name intent where we recognize the user input with the get name intent. Set the parameter name, and then we are reusing it here to speak to the user in a personal way with their name. And we're almost done. I just want to demonstrate one more thing, which is, so now what should we do if we wanted to reuse this name in another page? Is this possible? Yes, it is. So one thing I'm going to do is enter the same thing here. So would you like some coffee, Peter? We have that here. And then also in the answer to the coffee question, would you like some coffee? And then coming up Peter, for example. We don't need that question mark. Hit save and restart. Hi, what's your name? Peter. Hi, Peter, would you like some coffee, Peter? So this works. I'm going to say yes. So hi, Peter, would you like some coffee, Peter? Coming up. And now we see, okay, this did not work. And I did that intentionally to showcase that we can, in Dialogflow CX, we have so-called session parameters. So all the parameters that are set during one session can be reused throughout the whole session without any further work. We just need to change the context here from the intent context to the session context, and then we can just access the name. So if there was another intent with another parameter called name, this would be overwritten. But as long as we only ask for the name once, we can always access it here, which is super handy if we want to create a personalized conversation. So now that I changed this, I'm going to hit save. And the one thing that is a bit blurry is, why does this intent reference still work here? To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. My suggestion is that, well, since we didn't enter a new intent yet, it still works. But if anyone has any better idea, please comment. But for now, the cleaner way to do this is to also use the session reference here. So I'm going to change it. And one last time, let's test it out. Hi, what's your name? It's Peter. And then I'm going to put my full name. Hi, Peter. Would you like some coffee? Sure. And then now this reference also works. All right, so now you've learned how to ask the user for the name and reuse it throughout the conversation. I hope that was helpful, and please check out the description for my other learning materials on Dialogflow CX.